Hey guys, I'm Matt Visywig, and today we're going to talk about the SVG Rect element. And it's pretty much just short for rectangle. Let's get to some code. So here we are with a opening and closing SVG tag. We're going to add a rect element. There's two ways to do so. So you could have an opening and closing tag, or just simply a self-closing tag. And we're not going to get into the discussion of which one you should choose. Just for the simplicity of this tutorial, I'm going to stick with a self-closing tag. First thing we're going to want to do is add a width and a height, and we'll give the rect element a width of 100 and a height of 100. And so on the right panel, we're going to see the preview of the SVG being drawn. And so it's a little bit dark, so let's brighten it up by giving it a fill of white. So now the square or rect element is painted white. The other attribute that you can mess with is stroke, which will give the shape an outline. Let's see that. So I just gave it a stroke of purple. Now you won't really see much going on, and that's because it's going to default to a 1 pixel stroke. So to make that more obvious, let's give it a stroke width of 25. So that's like the thickness of the outline. You'll notice it looks warped. And that's because the stroke is going outside of the SVG. It's getting clipped. So if we move this in towards the center of the SVG, we'll start to notice what's going on with the stroke. We're going to give it a X and Y attribute. Let's go 50 to the right along the X axis and 50 down along the y-axis. We're going to give the SVG a background color. And to do that, we're going to use another rect element. So let's just paste one right in. It's going to be black. And I never mentioned this, but that's the default fill color. So if you don't have a fill, it will default to black. We have a width of 100%. So notice this is different than 100, which is unitless. When you give it a percentage, it's based on the full width and height of the view box. So if we wanted half of it, we can go 50, and you'll see the width and height are now 50% of the view box. Let's put that back. So we see the entire SVG or view box. As the container size gets bigger or smaller, all the coordinates remain in proportion. So that's why it's unitless. It's not like pixels where the shapes would stay the same size. It scales up and down. So now that we see the view box, it's a little bit more obvious what's going on with positioning. So now if we wanted to get this into the middle, we would want to figure out the middle point. So 250 would be X, and then you got to subtract the size of the shape, which is 100. So half of that would be 50. Beautiful. And this other one's going to be 100. So now it's in the middle. So that's how the X and Y coordinates work. It's just based on the view box. That's pretty much the basics of the attributes you can use in the rect element. One of the main purposes I use rect elements for are the background. So as you see, we can fill the entire view box with this trick, just giving it a width and a height of 100%. We don't even need to give it an X and Y coordinate because it defaults to 0, 0. The cool thing is, instead of just giving it a specific color for a fill, you can fill it with a gradient or a pattern. So let me show you that. Let's get rid of this rect element. We're going to bring in a pattern element. We're not going to go over the code because this is really about the rect element. But the one thing you will need to know is that it has an ID of pattern. And that's going to become handy because we're going to need to give this a fill. So we're going to make the fill white just to demonstrate that you can color the rectangle that way. We can also give it a fill of the pattern. And to do that, we just have to associate the ID and just wrap it in a URL. So we're just saying the ID of pattern will fill this rectangle. You can do the same thing with linear and radial gradients. I use this trick to layer a bunch of them on top of each other, and you can make some pretty cool designs that way. All right, so that's pretty much everything you need to know about the rect element. If you enjoyed that, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. And I'm going to hopefully make some more videos on SVG elements and web design. So let me know in the comments if there's anything that you'd love to hear me cover. Thanks, I'm Matt Viswig. Catch you next time.